to thank you for joining me for this episode of Man in a Room. I'm currently washing up, as always. Not always, but it's something I'm doing a lot more nowadays. Not washing up, recording whilst washing up. Again, getting bogged down in details that are not actually that important. But there we are. These things do happen. Okay, so I actually want to talk about something today because it actually has bugged me, and that is the local press. Any news outlet really is always tainted, no matter where you go. It could be a website, could be, like I said, a newspaper. The conversation is biased in some way, shape or form. And the thing that needs to be remembered is that there always is going to be a skew on any information that you've got. Now, what I'm talking about here is, well, I used to live on this lovely seaside village. So in this lovely seaside village, and it had like a beach. That's why it's seaside. And the thing about it was that there's something called longshore drift, and what that basically means is that when I think it's slowly washing into the sea the basis of it is basically washing into the sea. And there's been a lot of crazy weather recently, and a local newspaper uploaded some pictures taken on the beach. You can't see it here, but I'm actually using inverted commas. They're taken on the beach and said, "There's no more sand left." That's actually what they put on there. There's no more sand, and these pictures are just basically just this clay, and on these, what would I say they are? Basically it looks horrible. And growing up in this village and visiting this beach every summer, spending many a day there swimming in the sea and just basically relaxing on this beach, to suddenly see that it's actually not there anymore is actually very heartbreaking. And so I was like, okay, that's actually really horrible to see. Turns out that this beach, these photographs, which were being described, I'll say it, described as Winterton Beach, was actually taken some miles away, maybe 2 miles away, because maybe not 2 miles, that's a bit over the top. But it's more towards another village called Somerton Gap. It's called Winterton Beach. It's basically, that's what they basically said. It was that, but it was misleading to say it was actually Winterton Beach. And I went, okay, fine. So I looked at I was very sort of heartbroken about it. And the official website of Winterton said, it's been greatly exaggerated. Here are some photographs taken this morning of the beach. Here's the cafe. The cafe is fine. The touristy bit of Winterton Beach is still there. There is some sand there. To say there is no sand is a bit of an exaggeration. And it's frustrating because they basically made out like, they sensationalised it. And it was actually very misleading and misinformed and all that kind of thing. And basically the local newspaper, it's the same. Okay, so basically in this area there are 3 newspapers: the Great Yarmouth Mercury, the EDP and the Norwich Evening News. It's the same thing, just so you know. Just a spoiler there. It's all exactly the same thing. And basically they all picked up the story and all that kind of stuff. And it turns out they're actually owned by a company called Archant. Now Archant own The Sun and The Times, I believe. If I'm wrong, I apologise to those companies or newspaper franchise, whatever you want to call them. But basically, it's basically the tabloid press. It's basically the tabloid press, but it's got a local sort of taste to it. It's not sensationalised and that kind of thing, but So that's very annoying. The reason why I mention this also is because earlier in the week there was an opinion piece in the EDP, the Eastern Daily Press, saying the opinion piece put forward that maybe feeding homeless people is encouraging them. And I'll be honest, I can't believe that they actually published that. They published it, they put it on their website, and I was like, are you actually kidding me here? I know it's an opinion piece, and it's supposed to provoke a reaction, and it did get a reaction. You got to give them that. You gave them what they wanted by reacting. And I was like, really? Twice in 1 week, I've been frustrated by the same newspaper, or news outlet, I should say. There's me thinking that it's true to proper news from Norfolk. It turns out it's not. It's not at all. It's fake news. And I've actually been dealing a lot with fake news recently, actually. Somebody I know the thing about Facebook is that certain things can get spread very easily, and there's no sources, and people will just blindly share them no matter what without really looking into it. And the main way you can tell if something is fake news is because you have to look at the news source, the source. So if someone is sharing an image, a photograph, or a JPEG, and it's got some words written on it, already it's a bit iffy. So then you have to see if there's a link. Is the link actually to a place that's actually a good, viable news source? If there's no link, it's nonsense, because there's actually no information about it. I saw one the other day. I won't say what the story is because it is libelous. But basically, there was a food product that had been contaminated with the HIV virus by some disgruntled workers. And the image actually said, "It was on the news last night." There was no link, no nothing. So I did a very, very quick search online to find there's actually no information about it. In fact, the only information I could find out about it was on a website called Snopes. Well, I'm not sure why it's called Snopes, but it's a website that debunks misinformation and rumours and stuff like that. I've spent many an hour on that website just browsing it. Fascinating website. And the actual image that was shared on Facebook was on there and said it's false. And they said that this is basically just a new version of an old rumour. And a different company, different everything really. So I basically said hashtag fake news. And I believe I hope I didn't upset the person. You know, they didn't sort of look into it, but they deleted the post, which I suppose is good in a way. But it's very frustrating when people say stuff is fact. I'm not saying they are doing it deliberately, because it's very easy to be misled, especially in this day and age when there's so much information flying around. There's no way to tell what is real and what's not unless you spent all your time searching information online. But then you have to ask yourself, how accurate is this information? And it goes on forever, and you're just forever looking up information online that may not even be that accurate. And that's one of the frustrating things. Because even if you look at, say for example, I think I've talked about this before, but I'll talk about it again because I'm just assuming that people who listen to this actually don't haven't listened to the entire series, and I think that's a good way of doing it. Say for example that as a left-wing socialist snowflake, if you like, my search result would be different from somebody else's who's a right-wing Brexiteer, or whatever you call them, or a Trump enthusiast. It'd be completely different. So if I looked up information about, as an example, Donald Trump, I would get information about how he's doing a bad job and all that kind of stuff. Yet somebody who, a right-wing person, would get information about how, that's how he's doing a great job and all that kind of stuff. And it's ironic, really, the fact that I'm using the phrase fake news, because that's actually a phrase that he coined. I'm saying he coined, but he's the one who uses it so widely. And it's actually quite fun to point out fake news occasionally. And that's the thing, you see, because when it comes to stuff like information like that, it's basically based on an algorithm. So my algorithm will be different from everybody else's algorithm, so I'll get different results. And I don't think that's a good thing, necessarily. Obviously, there's a whole reason why this algorithm exists, because they need to send traffic or visitors to certain websites, because they'll get money from it. because they have something. I'm using Google as the actual example there. Google have adverts, and so basically, if they can get the right people to go to the right websites with the right adverts on it, they make money, and so that's how that works, and so that's why this algorithm exists. Same with Facebook. Facebook is exactly the same, if not a little bit worse, because you can basically sort your algorithm out yourself by liking certain things and following certain pages and saying certain words and all that kind of stuff. You'll get information. Certain things get blocked out. You can block certain information. You can block certain sources. You can block certain friends. You can block apps and other bits and pieces. And basically, it's like a little bubble. And what happens there is that people will then, I call it Facebook empowerment, where they think it's okay to be rude, and they just become somewhat. It's hard to explain. They just become empowered, and they think that everything they do is correct. And everyone is like that. I'm not saying specific people that even I'm like that. I think I'm right. Well, everyone always thinks they're right. They don't. I'm open-minded to say that I think I'm wrong occasionally. So that's not necessarily where I'm really going with that. But it's interesting how that can change things, because there was a thing recently about Facebook, how they are trying out a different way to give people news. And what I mean by that is they're basically saying that they are taking away, they're basically turning off certain information from certain websites, as in they'll have, like as an example, like a news outlet, they won't be shown. They call it professional like websites. Now they actually won't be. They'll be shown below friends and family updates, and basically that means that if you're friends with someone who's like really into certain things, and they're just sharing news information. Or information from certain websites, and that's all the information you get. And I don't recommend that as actually a form of getting your information. Facebook is not the best way of getting information, but it's a way of getting information. But yeah, that's my opinion about fake news anyway. I also need to change my water because it's now gross. Because somebody actually commented and said that, what is taking you so long to wash up? And there is a reason for it. So basically, my wife and I are a bit lazy when it comes to washing up. So we actually have different cups. At the minute, I'm counting here 5 mugs, including the one washing up, 4 glasses, and I like to wash those first, obviously, so you want to get them more streaky. I've also got there a coffee pot, coffee filter, coffee lid, etc., etc. Goes on and on and on. So I'm not going to change the water because it's great. I'll probably do all of the glasses and the mugs and that kind of stuff. I'll then go over to cutlery, because obviously that's, I always got taught to do that, because basically they said that you want to wash all that kind of stuff first, because you don't want it getting greased up with all the foodstuffs, which I agree with to an extent. Not to an extent, I just agree with it. There's no extent. The extent being the end. So just sort this out. Some fresh water. I apologise for the noise. The thing about my boiler is the fact that when I actually have to refill the water, I have to run it for a little bit, because what happens is that it cools down, and so I'm not actually got any hot water in it. It's basically running out to get some hot water. Bear with me. Actually, I've got much to wash up. Actually, I've got to do a few bowls and plates and stuff like that, and some saucepans just in a second. Grab those. Grabbed. There we go. I've actually put much planning into this, but I've actually got a fair idea of what I want to talk about this week. Last week was a bit all over the place because I wasn't too sure what I was going to be doing with it. But when I finish the water running, I will then continue with what I want to talk about. I could edit this out, to be fair, but that requires effort, so I won't. I like to basically give the same experience as somebody who is listening on the webcast, the same experience as the person on the podcast. The podcast being the on-demand section, as you were, as you wish. I don't know. I'll go with that. Let's pop the bomb now. Right. So basically, I've been watching a TV show called Tiny House, Big Living, and basically it's about people who give up their massive houses and they basically move into a little tiny house. The word tiny gets used way too much in the show, but basically they're minimising everything they do, multi-purposes for everything, and just basically it's very interesting. It's fascinating the way they can use the space they have and all that kind of thing. And it's always fascinated me, that stuff. I'm not going to try and move into a tiny house. That's crazy and not something that I want to do, nor would I think that my wife would want to do. However, it's given me this sort of spark of inspiration, as it were. And I suppose what I mean by that is the fact that I always carry like a rucksack around. I always do that because it's just something that I've done because I go to work, but if I go out and I like to have certain things on me all the time. And so basically that's what some people would call an everyday carry. Now there's a whole community of people who are obsessed with the everyday carry. I don't know what they're called, but there's websites dedicated to the everyday carry. And people have different things in there. They have like pen knives, they have bottles of water and all that kind of stuff. And basically I'm just trying to work out the best way, all the things that I would like to have on me all the time, so I can do what I do best, which is creating certain things. I mean, I like to write, I like to record, I like to webcast, I like to do all that kind of stuff. So I have to try and work out a way of doing all those things. So I've been just... The thing about an everyday carry is that it's a continual process. And you get rid of things, you put certain things back in, and it's basically it's a process that I suppose never really ends. And currently in my bag, I'd like to just talk about what I actually have in my bag. I used to call it a man bag, but it's not really a man bag, it is a rucksack. And I think the phrase man bag is a little bit misleading. The connotations is all over the place, and I don't really agree with that as a phrasing, because it's a stupid phrase. It's that simple, really. So basically what I want to try and do in my bag is I want to try and make it so that I'm actually able to webcast whenever I like, or wherever I like. So that could be on a bus, could be on a train, could be in a hotel room, because I do go on holiday occasionally, and it'd be nice to do that. And just other things like that, really. And so that's what I'm trying to achieve. So the main thing is that I used to be against using my mobile phone a heck of a lot, because I think it can be a distraction away from what you're actually trying to do, rather than actually what you're trying to do, if you know what I mean. It's a very distracting thing. So my idea was that I want to basically just try and work out what apps and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, I'm sort of digressing there from what I'm trying to say here. I've basically got this setup that I'm using right now. So I've got my mobile phone recording and also my field recorder, so that I have a nice high quality version of what I'm doing here. And I've also got my phone recording as well, and also casting it online simultaneously, because that way I can broadcast certain things. And I think that would be interesting, because it'll give me the opportunity to, not that I'm ever going to do that, but I can broadcast like a busker or something like that, and I can record like someone busking, and obviously with their permission. I'm not like a monster, I'm not that sort of person. But I can record and broadcast what's going on around me, and I can talk to people. And if somebody wants to be on this. They can, if I'm in the same room as them, we can see meet up and all that kind of stuff. But then at the same time, there is the whole thing about, okay, so what about battery life? Because I've also got like this a USB charger in my bag. So basically, what it is I've got a couple of leads. I've got one for my phone and one for my field recorder. I can then plug it in like this. It's like a charger. It's a massive charger. I can actually charge up both things at the same time, and I can also have them plugged in whilst I'm doing it if my batteries are running low. So basically, what that means is that I can actually do those bits and pieces, whenever I like. So I actually have a power supply. I also have a plug. So if I'm actually in someone's house or near a plug, like in a coffee shop or whatever, I can actually also charge up my bits and pieces if I need to. So I actually have electricity in my bag, in my rucksack, which is mad to think that's even such a thing, but interesting. So I've got that going for me. So I've got power supply. I've also got a notebook which I always have on me. It's a Moleskine covered in stickers because that's what I've always used. Because I love Moleskine. I remember the first time I ever had a Moleskine, I literally was like, this is the best thing ever because it's a high quality product and I love it and it's perfect size and yada yada yada. So that I do have a bottle of water that hasn't actually been opened. I'd actually have confidence in bottles. I don't have confidence in bottles very much, so it's not like I can. I don't have, because I have this story. Basically, I used to work in hospital radio, and I once had a bottle of water, and it basically the lid wasn't on properly, and it went all over the contents of my bag. So I wasn't best pleased about that. I think understandably, really. Yes, I've got I've also got painkillers. I've got like a little shopping bag that folds away, so I can use that if I need to use it if I'm ever out shopping. There's extra space, and it's interesting because I can't think of anything else I actually need for it. I've also got my wallet. That's like a little minimalist type wallet, which basically just has cards in it and stuff like that. But so the main crux is my phone and all that kind of stuff, and having a power supply, and it's quite fun actually because I said to my wife we've actually been using it to charge our phones overnight, and it's actually going really well. So basically, what I've managed to achieve is I've actually managed to all my creative endeavours. I'm actually able to do them now on the move, which is why I've sort of gone away from using like a studio setup when it comes to this show, because it's just best to have a continuity of quality, I suppose, because it's actually a much easier and freer way of me doing what I'm doing, because it's just easier for me. I'm one of those sorts of people that don't like to put too much effort into the actual creative process. And what I mean by that, I don't mean like I don't care. I mean, for me personally, it's easier for me to if I can just cut out all the crud, all the preparation that has to go into this, so I can just like hit record and go, or hit broadcast and I'm off. That's what fascinates me, that whole process, and I think that's what is important when it comes to the creative process. I mean, if you put steps in the way, or certain parameters that has to be met before you create, then it's a bit silly. I mean, as an example here, the reason why I don't work in a visual medium is because I know nothing about camera angles and camera work and all that kind of stuff. And at the same time, when it goes to, say for example, that I'm not having to go at people who are YouTube creators here, but there are people who have to have the right lighting. They have to have a proper microphone setup. They have to have tripods and all this kind of stuff. But literally, I can just go, and I kind of know that audio isn't really something that is has a viable future, because it's one of those things that people would rather not do, or not use, I should say, for whatever reason. I don't really know where I'm really going with that. But yeah, I don't know where else I'm really going with that. But putting things in the like steps in the way of actually the creation process is a bit dark. I mean, I'll use scraps of paper to write down information. That doesn't really bother me. It doesn't have to be in my Moleskine notebook. It doesn't have to be. I will write in a blue pencil crayon if I have to. Doesn't bother me. If I have to make a note of something, I don't have to sort of have like certain set ways of doing things. It's not something that I do, not something that I'm ever going to do, because it's just, like I say, it's actually just blocking the creative, to sound like a ponce, the creative energy that is generated occasionally. You need to basically just get out as quick as you can, and by putting a laptop or a computer or a certain notebook or a certain pen is a bit daft. And so that's my opinions on creativity, really. I've actually run out of things I want to talk about, so I'm actually going to stop recording now because I don't see the point. I'm just washing up different bits and pieces now. What to everything I want to talk about. So I guess this is until the next time. There's also a test, but an actual legitimate test. I'm going to actually see if I can upload this episode straight to the podcast, or straight from my phone to my podcasting place, just to see if it actually works. So I guess until the next time, this has been me, and I've been a man in a room. Just got to turn all this on. Where's my... There we are. Oh good, it hasn't actually done anything.